Okay, so what I'm going to do now is run through modifications round, and this is just going to show you both the intermediate modification and the beginners. So, and a couple of suggestions just in case you don't have a stability ball or a bench and things like that. So, give you some options. The first exercise is the mountain climbers, which for everyone will be this. Obviously, depending on your fitness level, will determine how fast you're going, but just take your own pace. And remember that you're only going to be working for 20 seconds, so you could afford to go that bit faster and put maximum effort in, because in the intermediate and beginners round, you're going to be able to have a rest. The second exercise is for the advanced, is the dynamic push-up. And for intermediates who maybe can't do both the jump down and jump up together, then you can actually do them separate, so it's a two-stage movement, and that is starting off with a press-up position, jump to the side, and then press up, and jump back in, jump, press, jump. For beginners, you can either do, if you want to include the push-up, then you can jump and then go down onto your knees and do the push-up, so like this, jumping in, down, push up. But because you've only got 20 seconds, you want to make the most of the time and get the heart rate elevated. So while you're still working into the shoulders and chest, you're not going to be doing a push up. What I'd recommend is just doing a wide squat thrust, which is that part there. So you're still building up strength and stability across the chest, shoulders and triceps, but you're also getting the heart rate elevated by doing the squat thrusts as well. Okay, so the next exercise is a stability ball leg curl. For those of you who have a stability ball but aren't able to do the single leg version, then there's the double, which is lifting up, pulling in the legs. You're raising the pelvis at the same time, squeezing the glutes, keeping everything raised up. Alternatively, if you aren't able to do the curl, you can just do raises, really squeezing the glutes and pulling upwards. So if you don't have a stability ball but still want to be able to do the bridge, then obviously you're not able to do the curl, but if you have a chair or a bench, place your feet up and then you can still do the bridge. Elevating the legs is one option, but you can still perform this exercise on the floor anyway. Bringing the feet in and just raising up. We will be doing this exercise later on in the workout, but there's no problem repeating it because it's a good exercise to do in activating the glutes and strengthening around the core. Couplet 2 is side to side step ups and then bench jump overs. So if you have a bench, then you can try them at whatever speed you're able to, or else facing forwards, just step upwards and then alternate the leg in the next round. So beginners should be able to manage that no problem. If you don't have a bench, you can use a chair, so you're actually getting probably a higher step up, which is more beneficial in fact because you're working more into your glutes. So you just put this chair against the wall and do your step ups against it, making sure obviously that the ground is stable. So the next exercise then is the bench jump over. If you do have a bench, then you can try them. Just making sure that you're bouncing on your toes and you're not going to be hurting your knees doing that movement. The other alternative is that you just do it on the floor and just imagine that there's something there that you're jumping over. Like so. So just take your time. It's just, and it sounds like common sense, and it is, but just taking your time through the movements first if you are a beginner, and choosing a modification that you think you'll be able to do. And if you think you can do a more advanced version, then start with that. And if you have to drop down to the slightly easier version, then there's no harm in doing that. And it's better, in fact, just every so often even to try a slightly harder version. So anyway, the next exercise is going to be stability ball crunch. For those of you who don't have a stability ball, then there's no point in me demonstrating that part again because you've already seen it. But there's a couple of options. If you have one of these stability discs, these are very good for doing exactly the same thing, increasing the range of movement through your abdominal wall, because it has such a great range of movement, and if you're just doing a flat on the floor crunch, then you're not getting the full benefit of the exercise. So if you don't have any of these, you can improvise with a rolled up towel, where you're going to place that just under the small of your back. So it provides some support for your lower back as well. And now you're going to perform crunch. So hands and temples. And you're aiming to get, imagine your shoulders are almost pulling you up and then down towards your pelvis. So you're really squeezing yourself inwards rather than just sitting upwards. So pulling your belly button in as well. So there's another option for you. Okay, the next two exercises you're going to love me for, but for beginners and intermediates, at least try as much as you can to do the exercise for part of the time even. So the plank climber, obviously in the plank position, and you're pressing upwards, alternating the leading arm. And if you get to the point where you can't do any more, then either just stay in the static plank in this position, or if you rest from up here. But for this purpose, for this particular workout, if you do fatigue halfway through, then I would try and rest on your elbows, because considering the next exercise, you're going to be up on your hands, so you will be fatigued already from the first exercise, and just bear that in mind, that resting on your elbows might be a good idea to consider. So the next exercise then, like I was saying, is on your hands in the plank position, and we're doing diagonal knee taps, working into the lower abdominals and the obliques. And as before, if you're trying this exercise for the first time, just remember, try and keep everything in line. You don't want to tilt the pelvis too much once you're in this position. You don't want the bum in the air coming in with the knee. You don't have to touch the arm, but if you go in that general direction, you will be hitting the right muscles. And then whenever you fatigue, just hold a static position, and then until you hear your beep, you can have a rest. The next exercise is a supine bridge or glute raises. We're actually going to do, we're not going to do static movements, we're just going to do the raises. We're just going to be raising up and down and doing your set repetitions. Really squeezing the glutes, because that is the main driving muscle for this exercise. So the final couplet is burpees and then into light sumo squat jumps. And obviously I've done a tutorial already on burpees, and I've put them into different stages. So stage 3 is the advanced level, which you've already seen. Stage 2 would be more for intermediates, where you're adding a jump, but you're still leaving out the push-up. For beginners, you're leaving out the jump and the push-up, so you're just doing a stand, jumping down, standing up. Then into the final exercise, which you've probably hate me for, but for advanced and intermediates it's the same thing. The only difference is you're going to have a different time interval, but you're having a wider stance, and it's just a slight jump. Making sure that you're bending as soon as you hit the floor to absorb the shock. And it's only a slight jump. Instead of the jump for beginners, what I just do is the bodyweight squat. And so those are the modifications. Done it slightly differently this time, so I hope that it's not too waffly and that you're getting a little more benefit from the demonstrations.